There we go. Welcome back to another episode of Stop the Scroll, your favorite social media podcast. I'm your host, Heidi Schmitz, social media strategist and agency owner. And I am here today with an exciting interview. I have Bonnie Conrad with me. She is a social media and digital marketing strategist. And her journey as an entrepreneur began out of opportunity when her family found themselves in the middle of the Mojave Desert because she's a military wife, which is I find this so fascinating. So she built a successful home-based business, building furniture, crafting home goods, and then got her degree in marketing and built her own digital marketing strategy consulting business. Welcome, Bonnie.
Hi, I am so excited to be here and talk to you about marketing.
Yeah. Your background is so fascinating to me because I don't know if you follow Emily Reagan, but she is a military wife and she trains like virtual assistants to be digital
Yes,
marketers.
yes,
And so I immediately like thought of her when I saw your background and I was like, "Whoa, this is so cool." It's like the mashing of all of the skills.
yeah.
So how did you get into marketing? What sparked your interest?
So I was a small business owner for a while, and it became out of opportunity because I knew I wanted to do something for myself because of where we were located. Childcare and jobs were not everywhere. And so it was, what can I do with my skills that brings me joy, a little bit of money, and also in my time that I had. Because being a military spouse, we are number one for 99% of the stuff around the house. So it's kind of like being a single married parent. I joke about that. So I had my small business, and the number one thing I struggled with was figuring out what to share with my social media and my marketing, how I should share it, and like the voice behind it and all of the little things that you don't realize matter. I learned all that. And so it kind of sparked my joy of like, okay, I need to learn more about this. So when we moved the last time, about 2 years ago, I really dove into the marketing aspect of things. I received a full ride scholarship to Southern New Hampshire University to finish my bachelor's in digital marketing. And my passion was I wanted to teach other solopreneurs, military spouses, how to market their small businesses in a way that is effective, that's like communicating with their target audience. Also, what a target audience is, because I feel like that's like a huge missed point. And how to do it in a way that it's easy and not overwhelming, because I feel like everyone's like, oh my gosh, I have to do all these posts and I need to do this. And it's like, you don't need to. It's just a matter of what are your goals and how can you achieve those goals with your marketing.
Yeah, I love that. And fun fact, I almost went to Southern New Hampshire University way back in the
Really?
day. I grew up in Vermont and ended up going to college in Boston. But yeah, Southern New Hampshire was like in my top five. Great school. Awesome. Yeah. It's interesting that you talk about audiences because I love when businesses come to me and are like, well, I market, I don't, what do you mean? Who's my ideal client? And deep diving into that customer journey and like what their pain points are and how you
Yes.
solve them.
Yeah.
How do you dive in with these solopreneurs who not everyone is a marketing expert? When you start a
Mhm.
business, you're an expert in what you do. You're not an expert in marketing. So how do you ask them the questions to really like dive into that audience and make them understand, no, you're not marketing to everyone. You're not
Yeah.
marketing to every woman in your community.
Right? There's a couple ways. I like to look at it as, what are your goals with your business? I always say social media is a tool for your business. It's not your business. So just like cash register at Target, it's just part of their business. And so it's figuring out how to use it correctly. We talk about your best customer avatar, not just like your customer avatar. So it's a matter of looking at your business and seeing who are your best customers, who is spending the most money with you, who is constantly coming back, who's sharing you, and figure them out, figure out their demographics, their attitudes, their pain points of like why they came to you and how your business is helping fix those pain points.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And
Mhm.
I know this. But you mentioned that you have a content batching guide. And
Yes.
as an agency owner, a lot of my clients are those, I don't want to deal with my social media anymore. But for the people who like either can't afford to outsource or who really still want to do it themselves. Tell me about your batching guide. Tell me your advice about this. I am personally terrible at batching my own content, so I'm also like legitimately curious.
So it walks you through like, okay, what is your workflow? Like, how many days a week do you want to plan content for? Are you planning for 2 days, 4 days, 7 days? And then it looks at allocating the time to create your content. So it's talking about like on Mondays, you do your research of what are your keywords, what are the topics you're going to talk about. Tuesday, you kind of like brainstorm content around those ideas of like, this is what we're going to include. These are the videos or templates that you want to use. And then the next day, you do your graphics. So you build the graphics. And all of this can be done like an hour a day. I think that's what gets so overwhelming is people are like, oh, I need to figure this out, create my graphics, create my captions, plan it, and then publish it all the same day. And it's if you break it up into, the next day you do your plan and then you do your captions and then you review everything and then schedule it. And if you break that up, that's 6 days. A lot of us don't work on the weekends. So you can do a couple things in one day, but breaking it up will make you more productive than trying to overwhelm yourself with doing everything at once.
I feel like I can relate to that because and I often people will say, and I don't know if you get this, like, what about your social media presence? No, I don't have tens of thousands of followers, but
No.
that's okay because I'm more focused on my clients than I am myself.
Mhm. Mhm.
But this week I was like, I have been super consistent with my own social media because I took an hour on Monday and just like, boom, done.
Yeah.
I think taking the time, even at the beginning of the month, to plan out the month and week
Hmm.
by week, okay, what do I need to create for next week or this week or whenever they're scheduling?
Yeah.
Uh, that's awesome. What you're saying about batching 100% makes sense, but what about to the business owner who's just like, I just don't have the time.
Hmm.
I want to keep doing it, but like, how do I find the time? Like, how do I find this time in my day? How do you kind of advise?
I'm brutally honest and I tell them if you want to do it, you got to find the time. You got to figure it out. You have to. I am really all over the place all the time. And so I schedule myself to make sure I get things done. I work from home and sometimes I'm like, oh, there's laundry, it needs to be done. But I'm like, I have a schedule from 10 to 11. This is what I'm doing. And so I tell them if you want to do it by yourself, then you have to schedule it. Otherwise, uh, delegate and hire out. But that's, if you want to do it, sure, you can do it. We'll give you the tools and advice that you need. But if you want to do it, you got to figure it out.
We started talking before we jumped on here about Pinterest, and you had mentioned the importance of tracking links. And I talk about this with a lot of my clients. So,
Yes.
how do you, because a lot of solopreneurs just aren't super tech savvy. How do
Hmm.
you break it down to them to be like, this is how you do it? And how do you make Pinterest not feel like the next level of overwhelm? Because that's
Yes.
how I feel with
So
Pinterest.
Pinterest is interesting. We actually just started using Pinterest in January of this year, and it has been the number one thing that's driving all like traffic across all social media platforms, if you want to call it a social media platform, to our website. It has the highest traffic rate on anything on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all of them. It's Pinterest. And so we figured that out because we use UTM codes. And they are just extra text that are added to a URL that goes to your website. Google has a free tool that you can use, and I'll send it to you so you can share it with your subscribers. And it shows you or it helps you add these text to the URL that in Google Analytics, you can see what is working and what is not. So we've realized that like our Instagram is okay, but it's kind of not worth the effort right now. But our Pinterest is kicking ass. And so we're like, we're going to put more effort into the Pinterest than we are into Instagram. So it's essentially watering the flowers and pruning the weeds. You're doing more of what's good and getting rid of the stuff that's not working.
What did you change about your Pinterest strategy? Because that's fascinating to me. Most social media managers know that like Pinterest is this huge untapped opportunity for so many people. But what made you really start investing time and energy into Pinterest?
With the UTM codes, we realized this is working. Keywords are a huge thing because it is a search engine. People go on there. I'm on there all the time looking at crafting stuff because my side passion is crafting and building and making things. And so I go on there all the time and I look at stuff and I had an aha moment in like November, December. I'm like, why are we not on Pinterest as a business? The thing with Pinterest is you want stuff that's eye-catching, that's shareable and savable. So like checklists, great quotes, catchy images are what's going to get you the traffic. We play with different things that we share on there and we look at the analytics. I mean, that's the number one thing of looking at your analytics, see what's working and do more of that.
I feel like I've read recently that video also does well on
Yeah.
Pinterest.
Yes, I will admit to I have not done video on Pinterest and I'm very confident, but getting in front of the camera and recording videos is just never my forte. And it's hilarious as, this is what I do, but it's something I'm working on. So videos do great on Pinterest. The statistics I've read is sharing one or two videos on Pinterest a week. It will do amazing things for your numbers.
I'm gonna have to start doing that. I'm gonna add that to my to-do list because I feel like it's this huge opportunity. But for someone who's like, okay, my business needs to be on Pinterest, what do you recommend for tactics? How frequently should they be posting? What are some of the strategies for someone who's like, okay, Pinterest is this opportunity for me. What do I need to do to get started?
We actually use a platform called Tailwind, and it is awesome. It helps you build your Pinterest pins. It has suggested graphics and it has a ghostwriter you can give it the URL that you want your pin to go to, and it helps write everything. It saves so much time when creating your content that we use it every week for our Pinterest stuff. Some of the content we create using Canva with our checklists and stuff like that, but then some of the stuff we use creating Tailwind's image creators. That I think is number one if you don't have a lot of time. Otherwise, we use keywords everywhere for our keyword research. And so looking at the keywords within Pinterest for your niche or your business is also super helpful. Pinterest also has a trends. I believe it's Pinterest/trends.com. I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me on that. But Pinterest also shares their trending keywords and their trending topics, and you can jump on those. And if they don't fit it with your business, then don't use them. But if they do, you have a great opportunity to like get on board that trend train and see what happens.
Yeah. I always feel like I'm super behind on the trends.
Yeah.
Like on Instagram, on TikTok, like trends. I'm your stereotypical elder millennial, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. That was trending like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have used Tailwind before, and it seemed so overwhelming to me. So, are you telling me that Tailwind has this AI component where it's, let me make your job
Yes.
easy?
Yes. It will give you, you can add, you put in the URL, you add the keywords that you want. I usually use 3 or 4. You add the call to action that you want in there, and it will give you 3 different options for your pin description, as well as a title.
That's fascinating.
It is really cool. Yeah, we trialed it. I trialed it for an hour and I was able to create, I think, like 20 pins in an hour, which took me an hour before. I probably would get maybe 4 pins, created like the graphic, the description, making sure everything's correct on there. And it pins right to Pinterest. So you can schedule it. So we have ours, I schedule them out like a week at a time. So our Pinterest is scheduled until Sunday. So this
How
week I'll
many
work on.
how many times a day do you post? Because I always feel like you're supposed to post 5 to 10 times a day on Pinterest, and I'm just like, who has time for that?
So they make it super easy. You can actually mark that we have multiple boards on our Pinterest, and some of them are like email marketing, some are social media marketing. So I don't post on every one of them, but I do share the same pin across different boards. And Tailwind makes it really easy of just building the pin, the description, and then adding it to each board. So I think today there's 7 pins that are going out. But if your consistency is huge with Pinterest, and it does take a little bit of time. So we didn't see any results for the first couple of months, but we were consistent on at least 1 or 2 pins a day. And if that's all you can do, then just do that. Just do the bare minimum, but stay consistent with it.
So when you guys started, when you guys were like, okay, Pinterest is this opportunity for us,
Mhm.
has your audience grown on Pinterest also? Does your audience matter? Because I know you can have followers, but because it's more of a keyword-based platform, more so than any other social media network, where did you start and what have your results been since? Audience growth,
Yeah.
traffic.
Yeah. Followers are really weird on Pinterest. So we don't, I think we could have like 2 followers on there. But from January, I noticed we had, I'm trying to think views wise. Hold on, I'm going to pull it up because it's a very interesting number. Recently, our posts are getting about 3,000 monthly views. In January, it was like maybe 100, and it slowly grew. And when it started growing, I will tell you a couple weeks ago, it was at 2.5 thousand or 2,500 views. And now it's grown significantly. Just consistency has knocked it out of the park.
How many different pieces of content do you guys share? Because obviously someone needs to have content to share on
Mhm,
Pinterest.
mhm.
I know you mentioned checklists, so I'm assuming lead magnets get shared on there.
Yep.
I've seen people sharing their Instagram posts on Pinterest. I don't know if that's a best practice, but like, how many different types of content do you share or pieces of content do you share on Pinterest each, let's say day, week?
It depends on the day. So we have a structure of every day is kind of something different. We do share like podcast episodes on there. We create the audiograms with podcast episodes. So we'll share links to the podcasts on there. My business partner published a book about digital marketing a couple months ago. And so we share that on there, which goes to Amazon, but it still is a great reference. We share products on there. I would say at least once a week, sharing some type of product, some type of what you're selling on Pinterest, because the sales on Pinterest are also really great.
That's so incredible.
It's fascinating.
I feel like it's this huge untapped resource that so many people are
Mhm.
just overwhelmed by, and you make it sound so easy.
That's good.
And I imagine that the batching guide that you've created, which we'll share in the show notes, do you talk at all about like batching content for Pinterest in that? Like,
Because I created this before I started doing that. It just depends on what your goals are. The batching your content workbook itself, like I said, it breaks it down into 4 different parts. So it's your workflow. So you really want to figure out your workflow, like what you can do. Then it talks about your frequency of posting. When you want to post, is it going to fit in your schedule? Because I think that's super important. You don't want to get overwhelmed, especially as a small business or a solopreneur. You're already doing a ton of stuff anyways. So don't overwhelm yourself. And then it talks about the content that you're actually building. Are you doing just videos? Are you doing images? Are you doing collabs with other companies? But it breaks it down of like your goal, like I want to blank with by creating this type of content on this platform because I feel like 99% of businesses that are on social media don't actually have a strategy in place. It's just
yeah,
sharing pretty pictures and hoping for clicks.
yeah.
Yeah. And then the fourth part is like looking at your metrics, kind of shying away from like those vanity metrics, but looking at the ones that actually matter and tracking those because that's the biggest part of figuring out what's working and doing more of that.
Yeah, vanity metrics are like the bane of my existence. I
Yeah.
love when people are
Yes.
like, "Oh, this one reel got 20,000 views." And I'm just like, "And?"
Yeah. Yeah. I shared a reel and it was literally me walking with my tiny dog singing some song, had nothing to do with my business. And I got like, I don't know, 10, 15,000 views. Does it have anything to do with marketing? No. It's just me being funny one day, and I'm like, this is hilarious. I'm going to do this. So it did
Did,
nothing for my business.
did
But
yeah, people, when I hear people say that, I'm like, did you get new followers? Did it result in traffic to your website?
yeah.
Was there a boost in traffic that day or like the day when the views popped off? Those are the things that really drive the needle,
Hmm.
not my reel went viral.
Yeah. It's hard. And I think it's the number one thing that people see when they're like new to social media. They're like, oh, I have this many followers. Cool. Are they buying from you? Are they doing anything for your business? Because if not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you
Hmm.
can have 10,000 followers and garbage engagement and no
Hmm.
traffic from social. So, what do your 10,000 followers matter for?
Yeah. It's just a pretty number.
Exactly. Exactly. I want to circle back because so I am someone who didn't study marketing. I had friends who were marketing majors. So I'm curious, do marketing degrees, like what did you study? Like I've heard that it's all depending on where you go, it's more theoretical, but I'm curious because I've been
Yeah.
like, I should get a master's in marketing.
So I'm actually working on it still. I am still enrolled as a student at Southern New Hampshire University. And I credit a lot of what I know from James that I work with. He is like my marketing Yoda, I would say. He has done marketing for 40 plus years. He's going to hate me for saying that, but he's worked with large companies like Apple and Sprint and Toyota. And so I would say 90% of what I have learned with him. And so sometimes when I'm taking my classes, like I think in August, I start a social media marketing strategy class. It's literally what I do for my job. But there's some classes that I'm like, am I cheating? Is this wrong? There's some stuff that I feel like repeats itself, but then there's some stuff that's like really great of consumer behavior of like, this is what you're looking at, but not just what, but like the why behind it. So I have some, but there's still stuff that's out there that I haven't even taken yet. So I'm still pushing forward.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Good for you. My husband, getting back to being a military spouse, like my husband was National Guard for 6 years. And there were times in his early years he was like, maybe I should have gone big army. And I'm like, maybe not. Because it's hard for military spouses getting moved around and
It is. It is. I feel like I have a lot of friends who have very prestigious degrees. They're doctors and they're nurses and they're lawyers and they have all this amazing education behind them, but they have followed their spouse around for so long and they put their career and their personal everything on the back burner. And then when it comes to spouse retiring, they're like, shit, I don't know what I'm going to do. Or kids go off when they're in high school and they're like, I want to do something. And they're like, the biggest thing I hear is, I don't have any job experience. And I'm like, hold the phone. You do, because as military spouses, we adapt really fast to everything that's going on, but we also like wear 9,000 hats. And I'm actually like, I don't know if I can say this or not, but I'm like writing a book about this because I have so many friends that I hear from this of you have so many skills as like a stay-at-home mom or a wife that you don't realize are marketable skills that are
Mhm.
can be used in the workplace or creating your own business. That is how I did it in the beginning. And now I am merged with Innately and we're building this great marketing platform. But like I tell them, look at the skills that you know that you love to do and the skills that you've learned along the way. Early in my husband's career, I volunteered so much. 50, 60 hours a week of volunteering. I was a nonprofit. I was a president of a nonprofit back when we were in California. I didn't get paid for that, but the experience that I learned and the leadership that I like learned to grow with was unbelievable. And so I tell them like look at the skills that you already have, your passions and run with that versus saying I have this degree but I don't have any experience in it. I can't do anything with it. That's just you know
Yeah, my degree was in political science and I worked in government relations, nonprofit communications, but that was how I shifted into marketing. And
Mhm.
this is like the early 2010s back then. But a lot of my marketing experience came from volunteering with a nonprofit also and
Yeah.
being the webmaster and later the VP of communications on the board. And if there's any way to get job experience that you don't already have, absolutely volunteering is.
It's huge and it's underrated. It's more about not looking at like the job that's open, but like the opportunities that it's going to give you on the back end.
Mhm. That's awesome. I'm
Mhm.
I can't wait to read your book. That's going to
I
be
know. I'm
amazing.
working on it. It is a work in progress, but I really want to be able to help others, stay-at-home parents and especially my fellow military spouses. If we move so much, find something that works for you and then run with it. Virtual work is just huge now, and there's so many military spouses that are all across the world. We have a girl in the UK. I was on a call with her like 2 hours ago. Finding something that works for you that you enjoy and then just run with it. There's something out there for everybody. It's just a matter of finding what you want to do.
Yeah, that's for sure. And you mentioned that you merged your marketing company with a
Yes.
larger one. How did
Yeah.
that come along the way? Like, how did that happen? How, what,
So
what do you guys do? Tell us about it.
So I actually started my business as a virtual assistant because I knew I could do all these virtual assistant things, but I knew at that point I had already started my marketing degree. And so I started as a virtual assistant and I had several clients and I loved all my clients. And then I had one client that I worked with who also had hired innately as their web developer and web designer, host, the whole nine yards. And unfortunately, the client that I was working for, he decided to close his business down. But James and innately was like, I'm going to reach out to Bonnie. I really want her on our team. And so I actually joined Innately's team just as his social media manager, just to get their socials more active. And then along the way, he realized that I love marketing as much as he does. I don't know as much as he does, but I love it. And so we decided a couple of months back in, end of last year, like I had my business that I was going to start growing of like helping military spouses and giving them these tools to learn their marketing better. He said, let's just grow innately together. And so now I'm like full time with innately.
That's amazing. That
Yeah.
is like the very definition of finding an opportunity and running with it. And
Hmm.
I love hearing these success stories about because so many of us marketers are self-taught. And I
Hmm.
feel like people think that holds them back, but it doesn't. Like
No,
there's
no.
so much in marketing, so many opportunities. You can become an ad specialist, a social media manager, a
Mhm.
SEO, copywriter,
Yeah,
funnel builder, email marketer. Like there is
yeah,
something for every single task out there. And marketing
there
encompasses just
is.
so much.
Yeah. And I always like to say that just because you make a decision doesn't mean it's permanent. If you start something and you are 6 months into it and you're like, I hate this is the bane of my existence, then don't do it anymore. Find something else to do. But just because you make a decision on something doesn't mean it's permanent. I started in medical. I was a medical assistant for 10 years and I thought, I'm going to go to nursing school. No, I didn't like it. And I don't know why I continued to do it. I think it was just like, oh, I chose this life and this is it for the rest of my life. And I don't have to do this. I'm going to do something else.
Yeah. Abs- I feel like so many people, especially those of us in our 40s, forget that like you can have a second career.
Yeah.
Your life probably isn't even half over yet.
Yeah. I've joked that every time we move, I was going to reinvent myself. I said I was going to sell used cars when we got here. I was like, was a builder. I have done other things at different duty stations. And I think maybe the military being so wild has pushed that out of me of I'm going to do what I want. And if I don't like this, then it's done. I'll do something else. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But just because you decided to do that one day doesn't mean you have to keep doing it.
So true. So true. Oh my God, I've loved this conversation.
Yes.
I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go put all my podcast episodes up on Pinterest. My wheels are turning.
Yeah.
How can people get in touch with you? What's the best way for people to follow up and follow along your journey? And
I definitely say find me on LinkedIn and I'll send you a link for them to find me on LinkedIn. And then our website is innately.com. And so we actually, our tagline is websites without worry. We help business owners with their websites because often there's a absence of strategy on their websites too. And so that's how Innately originally got built. But we help six-figure business owners drive growth with their digital marketing. And we have all levels of websites from building to hosting to securing to maintaining, anywhere from small business owner for 49 bucks a month. You build your own website, we host it, we maintain it. We're there if you need us. I feel like that's a huge thing of you have a website and you're like, crap, this plugin's not working now. I don't know what to do. And we actually are there to help you.
yes,
Yeah.
I have worked for agencies, and being the person or having someone on the team who can fix the client website when shit hits the
Mhm.
fan is really a nice feature.
Yeah. Yeah. We answer the phone.
And definitely send me a link to your content batching guide and all of the fun things and all of the things that Bonnie discussed, like Tailwind, Keywords for Everyone. I'll link those in the show notes because those are some great resources that I know are easy to use for
Yeah.
my audience. So thank you
Yes.
so much.
You're welcome. I will send you, I also have a really great, it's like a tips and best practices check sheet for UTM codes too.
Ooh,
So using UTM codes, it makes it a little bit easier, but like little key things that you want to be sure that you do to keep them consistent.
that's awesome. Yes, please. We'll share all the
All
things.
the things.
All the things will get shared. Thank you so, so much for joining me. This is a fantastic conversation.
Yes, thank you for
Um,
having me.
and until next time, follow me at Heidi Schmidt Creative on Instagram and all the places. And tune in next week for another great episode of Stop the Scroll.